Hi everyone, welcome to Spiritual Split Splash. I'm Karen Lynn. Spiritual Split Splash is all about hopeful and heartfelt messages, conversations, and today I'm bringing on James Bene. And James is a Reiki master, a psychic. I've been working with James now for 5 years personally, and he's been so helpful. Hi, James.
Hi.
Give it a little intro about you, and I didn't say you're the founder of Bene Mudra Wellness as well, between
Yes,
LA and
yes.
New York, doing amazing
Yes.
things. So welcome.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here.
We're finally doing it. We talked about this for
I
so long.
know.
So happy to be able to share you with everybody and talk about
Thank
like
you.
what I consider to be one of your amazing talents. Is you're so good at like really care, like empathically helping people work through so many things.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm so proud of you for starting this and committing to it.
Yay, thanks. We talked a little bit about the topic of the shadow self, only because I remember very distinctly a session that I had with you when I was just going through so much of my own development. And, it's always around like the relationships. And I was having the same pattern show up with the men that I was dating.
Hmm.
And, and you just saw, you're like, wait, I see this darkness. I see this. And it opened up so much area for me to heal and really
Hmm.
turn things around for me in,
Hmm.
in, in so many ways and how I approach relationships and everything. So I think that could be so helpful for others. And I just wanted to kind of throw that back out at you because
Yeah.
you really understand it, and it's something I'd love for you to share with us.
I feel like my greatest teacher
Mm-hmm.
was my own pain and my own shadow self that I had to accept, explore, heal, work with. I used to be very scared, not scared, but afraid to kind of go into those darker nights of the soul, really to uncover that deep trauma or fear that lives within. And I slowly learned, kind of at a younger age, that that side is actually really beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's like eating a rich piece of chocolate cake.
Right.
It's comforting and it's rich. It has a voice. There's creativity there. And although you shouldn't remain in that space for too long, I've learned kind of how to dip my toes in,
Yes.
do some healing work there, hear whatever voice I need to hear, and come out of it saying, okay, now I have a game plan of what I need to work on and what I can heal in the light. It's kind of like, that saying you have to go through it to get to the other side.
Yes. So
Well,
true.
that's the dark side of us. That's our shadow self. We have to visit it, him or her. We have to go through it to get out. There's no other way.
I know, and it's not happy. I mean, I imagine a lot of people come to you and they're like, "Oh, tell me my future. Tell me these things." And then you're like, "Well,
Yeah.
we got to face some of this darkness first," which is
Yes.
the right way. It's the most
Yes.
integrous way to move
Yes.
someone through. But how do people relate to that? I mean,
Well, it's funny because I do get a lot of people that want like an intuitive reading.
right?
And I really, maybe 10 minutes into it, I'm like, okay, this person needs therapy, not psychic
Sure,
help.
sure.
So that's, I'm a healer
Yeah,
through and through, even though I have these psychic abilities that I've had
yes,
since a child.
yeah.
They've always been with me. My goal wasn't to be a psychic or to just give out readings. It just kind of happened when I would meet with people and I just wouldn't be able to help it. I wouldn't be able to
Amazing.
help that to come through. And then after a while, that's what people sought out. And so, yeah, kind of the other stuff got put to the side a little bit. But now that it's a part of what I do, I really am more of like an intuitive healer. And although we do psychic readings, I really try to interject, if I may, if I can,
Yeah.
some real healing strategies as well.
Which is so important. And I know we talked about this because you've been called to do this work. And
Mm.
thankfully, we're also grateful. In fact, Janice actually just said, James, you've helped me through some heavy stuff
Oh, hi,
right now.
Janice. Oh,
So, but I know you were acting in LA and you have a singing career that was doing really well and all these things. But it's amazing when we get that calling and we're, as you said to me, God is now your boss, like,
yes, yes. I remember the moment that happened in my life. where I was kind of like, really? It's like, really? This is the way you want me to go?
Right.
Um, but it was inevitable.
Yeah.
I as a kid into a young adult, I was really pushing away all of these spiritual things that were happening to me that honestly, I just wasn't at that time in my life ready to deal with or handle.
Yeah.
There was so much going on in my own life. I didn't want to deal with the afterlife. I didn't want to deal with
Yeah.
anyone on the other side, or I didn't want to deal with, supernatural. Because when I was a kid, I was really taunted by that. So
I
it was
know.
so negative to me, and I pushed it away, pushed it away, pushed it away until it just came flying back out, and I had no choice but to relook at it and dive back in. And that was it. Once I did that, it was signed, sealed, delivered.
Yeah. And
Yes.
so you mentioned two things I wanted to follow up with you on. One was the supernatural, because you shared with me experiences that you've had with supernatural forces, and also the idea we were saying at the very beginning about going through the dark side. So when you had this moment or moments when this was coming back to you, you had to pass through that dark side, right? That's what I'm understanding. And also confront other
Yes.
energies.
Yeah. It became a confrontation. In the beginning, it was just like, dear God, please let this go away. A lot of that.
Yeah.
It started when I was like 4 or 5.
Wow.
So I didn't really know what was going on. At that time in my life, there was just like some chaos going on. And I think that I would escape into my third eye a lot unknowingly.
Yeah.
And I think it just opened a door, and a lot of my fears kind of came to life.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
scary at that age, not understanding even
yeah.
who you are yet, to be able to see that. Did you have any people in your life that you could lean on at the time?
I really didn't. It was really a lonely journey. I didn't really talk about it. I think I brought it up a couple times to my mom.
Yeah.
And I just remember it just being really dismissed. Even though my mother and my grandmother and a lot of people, women in my family, all have had gifts. So it's just very interesting.
They tend to run, Lydia.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I was told I was crazy, but then I find out later, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I think all people who kind of venture on this path at some point have been told we're crazy.
Yeah, I've heard it.
Some more than others. So I can only imagine. Because when that veil is so thin at such a young age and you don't really understand, but that molded you, and you've helped me to see that a problematic childhood and challenges that we face when we're very young and we don't understand them are all gifts to help you evolve and help others. And accepting them. And that is kind of like a darkness, because often we don't want to have to revisit. I didn't.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, we don't want to. That's work. It's work to go back there. It really is. And if you're not ready, it could do more damage than good. And if you're not working with someone who knows how to guide you well, it could do more damage than good. You don't want to reopen something and not know how to close it.
Okay.
And I think I was reopening things and just being like, okay, everything's just open. I never closed anything. And so it was just a spiral of energy, kind of always,
Yeah. How do you close something like that? Like just kind of feeling it and letting it go?
I think there are many ways to like close these things. I feel like if you have a moment where you have like childhood recognition, I don't know, is that the word? You recognize some trauma from your childhood, or it comes up, or you're triggered, and it just fully opens. I think the way to close it is to sit in the feelings, go into the dark place, get the message. Once the message is given, it lightens up and you come back out. I think people don't do that. They don't actually wait for the message. They try to go in and fix it, where you should just go in and be and allow that to receive what that feeling wants from you. It's really important to know that in universal law, there is no difference between light and dark. They're very equal. Mm-hmm. They've been created at the same time. Yeah. And so a lot of times when we're experiencing perceived darkness in our life, or a terrible experience happens, it truly is God in a costume.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, God in a scary costume. And then when it's all over, she rips it off and she's like, hi, it's me all along. I had to do that to you.
When you're in it, it's hard to, it's like it's a Halloween costume.
Yes, it's scary. It's absolutely scary. But then I'm sure everyone who's listening or here can relate. You have those moments where you look back and you're like, wow, if that didn't happen, then that wouldn't have happened and I wouldn't be here. And so it's light,
Yes.
you know?
So true. I mean, there's a lot now about the light and the dark and, reconciling our shadow selves. And would you say it comes down to a lot of self-love, like, and self-acceptance?
Yes, I mean the core of all of us is love. So if we can return to love, like Marianne Williamson, we return to that core of love, then we're healed because where there is light, there cannot be darkness, right? Light is the absence of darkness.
Yes.
So when you have those days where you feel light and joy, you're healed. Like healing can happen in a moment and then it can leave in a moment.
Okay.
It's something we have to constantly work on until our body, our mind, and our spirits are used to that vibration. Does that kind of answer the question?
It does. It makes a lot of sense. It's like you have to embody it, and it's like your vibration has to get used to it, right? Like you have to kind of feel into a new way of being.
Yes, it's so true, and that's why they say be careful what you wish for, because if you really want something or wish for something, but you haven't done the vibrational work to allow yourself to receive it, you will crash and burn underneath the pressure of it. It's you ask yourself, how much energy could I hold right now?
Yes.
And if you feel like you can't hold the energy of whatever this thing is you want, then it's not meant for you now until you align with it. Yeah, that's you just cool. Have to,
So I've heard people say that when they felt so much love, it's almost like they couldn't hold it in. It was just so much. They were like, it was unbearable because it was so beautiful and we're not used to being like so light at times. It made me remind me of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I know a couple people that experience that kind of bliss, and I think it can happen in very bizarre moments where you're not really going for that. You're not going for that feeling.
Probably when it does happen.
Yeah, that's when it happens. I mean, I remember the last time I felt that weird surge of like, I call it God, that just, I was like in a soul cycle class. I was like on the bike, pedaling, sweating, disgusting. And I don't know, something like just switched through me. And it lasted for maybe a good 20 seconds. And so physical exercise and pushing yourself can bring that feeling, meditation, sleep. There's a lot of, it depends on the person. I think it depends on what the person needs,
Totally. Well, thank you for that explanation.
It's
and I want to circle back to the paranormal experience because we were talking a lot about Nepal. I've been talking about Nepal for a while with you because I had really been looking forward to my trip, and I did actually was able to go right before the pandemic. And we were talking about it because I know how much you enjoyed being there yourself.
Yeah.
And I just wanted you to share a little bit about that experience because part of what I'm hopefully shedding light on at some point is mixing my travel and talking about places. And your experience there was so strong, and I kind of could understand when I was there. It's a magical place. What happened?
Yeah, it's a little crazy story. So, we got there. We were exhausted, obviously, from flying for like 24 hours, and we checked into this hotel, which was an old palace that had been transformed into some hotel, and so it was time to go to sleep. We got ready and closed our eyes. I was with my partner, so we both were there. And I had it's hard to explain because I don't really know what happened, but what happened was that I was still awake and something came over my body. It was almost like a sleep paralysis where I couldn't move. I was conscious, but I couldn't move. So I wanted to scream and be like, oh my God, I'm dying. This is it. See ya, and then something happened where this light, the most bright light I've ever experienced in my life, started to just cover the room. Like I couldn't see anything but this like white light. And it seemed like it was coming through the window. Yeah. And within that white light, I felt like there were these electrical currents being like zapped through my body. And I was really scared. Like I was a little freaked out. Not gonna lie.
Of course.
I was like, oh my God.
This isn't happening.
I'm like, am I having a stroke?
Very often.
Yeah.
I just freaked out.
I freaked out. But then a voice said, relax. Like something just said, relax, James, it's okay. Just relax. And so I relaxed into it. And then as soon as I really relaxed, it was like, zoop, it just all went away. The crazy part is I looked over to my partner and I was like, are you awake? And he was like, yes. I'm like, did you just experience that? And he was like, yes. So we both had the same experience. Now, whether this was alien energy or if this was an awakening.
Yeah.
It was our first night there. All I can say is after that day, both of our consciousness shifted.
Welcome to Nepal.
Yes, it was after, the whole trip and the experience, like trekking and meeting with monks and meditating. I'm sure you had a similar experience. We came back to the States and I was just almost like repulsed. I was like, I can't be in this society.
Yeah.
I was like, I wanted to go back so badly. Like I
re-entry's tough from a place like that.
It was really, really hard.
Yeah.
And it took time to reacclimate to America, to commercialism, and seeing all this abundance being wasted when the Nepalese have so little but have so much joy. So it was a really life-changing kind of experience.
Special.
It really was.
The energy is there. Like I'm not surprised that something like that happens there, because it's very a high energy place.
Yeah. And I believe that certain healing places call to you. And like you, I know your story, kind of just found out about this woman and she happened to be in Nepal, right?
Yes.
So that's what led you there, really, unknowingly. How we decided to go was, honestly, we were like on the computer and this, like, how they have Groupon for like trips and stuff? It like popped up and I was like, oh, Nepal, like a 3-week trip to Nepal, trekking in the, and we just booked it. Like, it was like this, we're doing it. Yeah. And so it was so bizarre. I'm like, okay, we're going to Nepal in a month. What just happened? Yeah. But I feel like those types of places do call to you.
Yes, indeed. Oh my gosh, absolutely. And when you listen, I mean, I didn't even have Sajana's address. I just knew I wanted to go. I was like, I'll see you there. I'll make it there. And everything just flowed. What a place. I really hope I get to go back.
Me too. Of course you will.
Anyway, so thanks for sharing that story.
Of course.
Going back now to shadow self and things. Before we go into that, I just want to bring some attention to your socials, your website, because you have Bene Wellness. You have lots of courses on there, some of which are free. Your psychic circles, spiritual counseling, and just so many great things.
Thank you. Yeah, we are right now offering a bunch of donation-only classes because of everything that's going on. It's our way of giving back. My first dream of when I decided to go down this avenue was not to be a solo star, not to be like jamesbene.com, like super psychic of the world. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to create a family. I wanted to create a platform for a bunch of different up and coming spiritualists to be able to do their thing. Because what I do is I stick to what I know. Like, this is what I do. I do it well. This is what I do. And I stay in that wheelhouse usually. But there's so many avenues of spirituality and wellness that people would love to discover that might be beyond what I do. So I got together, and I would love for you to do something too. So we'll talk about that later.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you.
So I kind of hired or partnered with a bunch of these teachers here in Los Angeles, and I've kind of created just that, a full out platform for modern spiritual wellness. It has
energy, Jane. I love your city. It has energy. It's fun. It's interesting. It's wonderful.
Spirituality should be light. It's purples. It's pinks. It's light. I feel like I am a child of, let's say, the 80s metaphysical movement, right? I was, I wasn't like an adult then, but that's who I pulled from, Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life is one of the most life-changing books. And in a way, it became a little dusty for me. It became just a little dusty. It needs some life. It needs some youth. It needs some modern takes on these new age philosophies that some of them are just completely outdated now. And so that was my intent, to bring a new energy to it.
Okay, that's cool.
And not just recycle, what I studied or learned or the teachers that
I know. One of my first books is When You Can Heal Your Life. I had really cystic acne, and I remember reading her list of what it means. I was like, oh, I have a lot of anger. Okay. Yeah. But it's all the early stuff that set this whole thing in motion,
Yes.
But it's so cool we can reinvent on it.
Yeah. And I think that makes the good modern healer, is to reinvent it, because the voice of the generations change.
It does. It does.
We have the Gen Zers now, and they're just so open and gender fluid, and they're into
Yes.
Wicca and spirituality. I'm a
Right?
little addicted to like witch talk. I like kind of love TikTok
Right?
now. But
Yeah.
because I see all these young kids doing all these spiritual things and it's really uplifting and
It
it's
is.
inspiring
It
for
is.
me who's
Right?
older, a little
You're right.
older.
Right. Right. No, yeah, me too.
You know.
I think back like when I was that age, if I had talked about candle magic or tarot cards or the stuff that I was always attracted to, like people were like, "You're nuts. You're a
Yeah.
freak." I always felt a little bit like I never fit in because I was
Mm-hmm.
always thinking I was looking in the invisible and dealing with my own
Mm-hmm.
pain if I was even aware of it. But
Yeah.
now, wow, it's like if you have any little interest, it's like there's a
Yeah.
whole world
A
open
whole
to grow
world.
you,
Yes.
which is
I think,
wonderful.
I remember back to my childhood having like all my little witchcraft books and like
Yeah.
white, all like stuck under my bed, hiding it.
And
I thought I was a witch.
so I wanted to go back just to the shadow self again.
Yeah, yeah,
So
please.
what would you recommend to anyone watching this that they can do to initiate that work, or if they're already into it, like just some thoughts about progressing through that?
The first step that I would do to meet your shadow self
Mm-hmm.
is to talk to him or talk to her.
Okay.
Because there is a voice. The shadow self, yes, it could be a culmination of your inner demons, quote unquote, but you've created this energy. This energy is working with you, not against you. It could be scary, but it truly is the thing that's going to put you where you want to be. So it's like the thing that you're most afraid of is the thing that's going to actually help you grow. And so sit in it, just sit in it, conjure up those feelings, go back to a memory where you feel like there was a traumatic moment, and just use your imagination, visualize it, bring it into your mind, allow your body to start to feel those emotions. It'll come right up. Trust me. You invite that part of you, it's going to come right
Really?
up. Yes.
What if you're not in the most safe environment to do that? Like, I guess you go to nature or find.
You want to create a space.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to be sitting on the bus like, I'm going to do my shit. I wouldn't say that. Create a space, have a journal with you, light a candle, feel safe, call in your guides or angels, make sure that it's a nice, safe environment.
Yeah.
And then just sit with it. You just sit. That's the beautiful thing. You don't do anything. You feel, you sit in acceptance, and you see what happens, what voice comes out. And that's why I think journaling then or automatic writing helps, because it will give that character, that archetype, a voice that you then can just channel out, write it down, and then you keep writing for 3 or 4 pages. And then when you go back and read it, you might be a little shocked as to what came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can allow.
Yeah.
Do you mean like your inner critic would be like the voice?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep. The inner critic, absolutely. The inner critic would be within the realm of the shadow self, but the inner critic's an ego.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So a lot of times there's this ego versus shadow self. Is the shadow self ego? What is ego? Where does that come from?
Yeah.
I tend to think they're a little bit different.
Okay.
Because if you really go into the shadow, it really truly is your inner child that's scared. And so it's not going to be a judgmental voice. It's not going to say, you idiot. Like, why'd you do that?
Very good distinction.
Yes. And I think people think it's going to be like, some demonic thing, but it's not. It's truly the inception of your trauma. However old you were in that moment, that's how old this shadow is. Yep. And it just wants to feel safe. The ego is going to tell you, don't go into the shadow self. What are you, stupid? Nothing's going to happen. That's an opponent energy. That's something else. Coping mechanisms can create an ego. A lot of other things can create ego.
Yeah. So you kind of have to get through the ego part.
Yes.
Sitting there maybe feeling like nothing's happening. A lot of people feel that when they're meditating, like, nothing's happening yet, or what am I looking for?
Yes.
And just let it kind of settle in and move through you.
Yes. The road to the shadow self definitely would be, let's say you're on a canoe and you're on the river heading to your shadow self. The ego would be one of the characters you come upon.
Ah, okay.
Before you get there. So you have to kind of break through that.
Okay.
And then really go.
And this is why it's helpful to work with a healer on some level.
Yes. Just for anyone who's watching, if you have experienced a great amount of trauma in your life, because everyone is different. Yeah. And now I'm talking about the trauma that would include rape, being molested,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
being all that stuff that really truly leaves a remarkable stain,
Yeah.
then I wouldn't recommend maybe doing it on your own. I think at that in that time, I think you would need a professional to sit with to guide you because it could be very overwhelming to open that box.
Yes.
You know, so having someone to steer you would be my recommendation if it's that deep. You know, if it's that
Yes.
deep.
Yes. Well said. Well said. And we have
Yeah.
some people here also saying
Hi.
good analogy about the canoe and the ego. People couldn't agree more. Janice says
Thank
that's
you.
helpful difference to know. So thank you. Thank you, James.
Of course.
So do you ever get rid of your shadow self?
Good question. You don't necessarily get rid of it, but you integrate it. It's an integration of the dimensions. You become whole. Because a lot of times the shadow self feels like it's something that has been disassociated from you. It's something separate, something that is not here. When you bring it out and you live it, you become whole with it. You integrate it into the soul
Yes.
system,
Yes.
and it will always be there as a reminder. But you've transformed it. You've transformed it. It's
Right.
now experiencing light. When you tell your inner child you're okay, you're loved, and that inner child actually grasps it. Is he in the shadows anymore? Is she in the shadows anymore? Or is she in the
Ah.
light? Things can happen in life. We can be re-triggered,
Yes.
re-traumatized. You know, terrible things can happen all the time. And could a shadow self kind of come back and be reborn? Sure. There could be essence of that come back.
Yeah.
But to be quite honest, everyone who's listening knows you probably could think of, okay, this is my crap. This is what it
Right.
is. Like I know why I'm this way. I know what I
Yes.
went through. And that's the majority of the shadow self is living in that the heaviest trauma that you might have experienced. Or the shadow self could also sometimes take on the characteristics of the person who either abused you or bullied you or told you you weren't good enough.
Totally. And that's where you help me because you're like, you are putting the face, and I'll share this, you know, for the purpose of the conversation, of your father on these men. And I was like, of course, it's like you could intellectually see that, but when you start to really feel it, you're like, oh my God, I am.
Yes.
And then once you
Yes.
realize that, you're like, no, I don't need your validation or this. I can do it for
Yes.
myself. I mean, it seems so simple intellectually and almost silly now that I recount it, but at the time, it was not so clear, you know. And you're right. It's like when you can look at your life like that.
Oh yeah, not
Yeah,
silly at all.
yeah, no, not silly at all.
Not
Yeah,
silly at all, because that's why we have to heal the shadow self, because the shadow self will have a voice and it will tell us, don't go there. Don't trust that guy. Don't trust that relationship. Don't go for your dreams. Not
yeah,
because it's ego trying to stop you, because it's scared to death.
terrified.
So it can stop you from living.
Yeah.
It can stop you from doing what you want to do. And that's when, you know, there's like some books called like Kill the Inner Child. I don't like that. You're not killing this person because you are the inner child. You're integrating him or
Okay.
her. You know what I'm saying? You're
Yeah.
integrating it. Kill the ego slightly, but keep the inner child.
Right.
Just put him in a light room. Get him out of
Yeah.
the
Or
dark.
grow them up. Grow them up. Mature.
Grow him up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, you know, that's what we have to do. And if you look at it that way, like I'm looking at a child,
Right.
not some scary dark figure that's climbing up from the depths of hell, it can change. It changes your mind about it. You're like, this is just a scared little girl, little
Yeah.
boy. That's it. That's all. That's what the shadow self truly is.
Yeah. And we
You
all
know?
have it. Even if we have like someone has like a beautiful family upbringing
Yeah.
and lots of love. Society
Oh yeah.
still, right? We all, everyone has a shadow side, according
Yeah.
to Jung.
Yes, everyone has it. Everyone has it. You can have the most blessed childhood,
Yeah.
but there's always going to be something. We are not
Okay.
born here free of
Yeah.
sin.
Okay.
And that's why the
So this is our
Bible,
path.
this is it. We're all born here with something. You're not going to get off easy or you wouldn't be here. In
Yeah.
Kabbalah, they say once you learn your lessons, you die. That's it. Why would you stay another second? There's no
Wow.
need. And I thought that was really profound, you know, and then
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to learn really slowly now. I'm just going to take
Stretch
it
it
really,
out.
just stretch out. And it makes sense. It's like, so
Yeah.
even if you're born with the best upbringing, something's going to get you.
Yeah.
Something's going to come in. There's going to be something. Insecurity, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You can have the best family, but if you have parents that push you too hard,
Yeah.
that's going to create a crazy shadow self.
True.
That can
True.
create the
Yeah.
bully. Oh, you're not good enough. You're never going to make it. If we want to call these like coping mechanisms, is the shadow self just one giant coping mechanism that we need to like rid ourselves of? If you just look, in psychology,
Yeah.
I think it's another way of saying it is the shadow self. But in Kabbalah, which I love, and I really connect with, they do say, and they believe that we are born with these energies, that it isn't something that is within us. That as a matter of fact, the ego is an opponent, dark energy, and the shadow self is another angel. And we have all these like
Wow.
we have all these characters born with us to
Yeah.
challenge us, because it's not fun to come here without a challenge. What's the point, right?
Right.
So not only are we coming here to heal, but they gave us all these people or things that are going to stop us from healing. So it makes it harder.
Yeah.
We don't get off easy here on Earth.
Because there's a lot of talk in the spiritual circles about everything is love and light, always, always, always positive, and can't always put a happy face on and be like, oh, everything's okay.
No, you can't. Saccharine spirituality, or spiritual bypassing, as it
That's
were,
it. Yeah.
is so prevalent. Now, I don't want to talk bad about the higher consciousness community of the world. We're so grateful that they exist.
We're all learning. Yeah.
We're all learning, but it's very prevalent. Live, love, laugh. Like, okay,
Right.
but when I'm really down, that's not going to help. It's so, I think a lot of spiritualists like to keep it very light. They don't like to be political. They like to just be like, love and light, turn to love, call your angels. That's great. But when someone's truly experiencing trauma,
Yes.
an angel, which I absolutely exist, spirit guides, which absolutely exist, in my revelation, they will not help you, because you are meant to do it yourself. They will not drag you through your dark self. They won't. They might shine a light on it. They might make you feel safe enough to go there, but they will not, you will never be pushed into a state of healing. It has to be a choice. And so if you're using spirituality to just band-aid everything that you've experienced in your life, you're doing a disservice to your soul. Your soul doesn't want to band-aid.
Thank you. And that's the integrity that I always say happens in healing. All healers have to have that integrity, because if you can't help people kind of feel that darkness, and you're just like, because I know there's a lot of gifted energy people, and they can put you in a state that's like continually, but then the second you leave, if you get cut off on the road and you're like, you're right back where you were before, unless you really get the real healing and direction.
Yes, you need that. And that's why a lot of these 10 weeks, forgive me, but 10 weeks to happiness, or manifest your life in a week, pay all this money to come and do that. It's trickery of the mind. Is when you're saturated inside of something, you become it, right? And so you love to hear all of these beautiful life lessons and how you can create the world, and it's uplifting. But what they don't tell you is, and when you leave this workshop in about 3 days, you're going to go right back to your normal self.
But you don't have to. If you make
don't
shit.
have to. You have to, yes. That is the platform. That's the information. Then you have to work that every day. Every single day. Not a moment can it leave your mind. And that's the thing. You go to these things, you feel happy, then you leave and you write down your goals. Then a week later, you're like eating Ben and Jerry's, crying, watching like Steel Magnolias.
Oh, I know. I've been on that merry-go-round.
Yes, me too.
Learn, you fight your own battles, And
me too. I started this very much like sage and crystals and everything, just completely outside of myself. And it wasn't until I met my true healer and inspiration, Kelly Piper, who was a great guru that lived on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, who unfortunately passed. But she was the first one to really tell me, she's like, James, you love the smoke and mirrors. She's like, you're so theatrical. You love all that.
Well, you were an actor.
Yeah, I was like, of course I do. I'm like, And she's like, no, you got it. It's all inside. You don't need any of that.
Isn't that the truth?
And it became like the truth. And then if I did use crystals and things like that, because I'm obsessed with them,
me too.
It was more to work with them to do real deep healing work, to not just think that meditating with this is going to bring me money. It was more of, I'm really going to do the work. And then it's fine. Then you can have as many of that stuff as you like.
Yes. Yes,
you
well said.
know?
And by the way, I just want to give you some feedback here. Moonlight Wisdom is saying yes. Really happy to be here. Vivi Mark, I absolutely agree. Thank you. I love this live today. So really, really
Oh,
appreciate all this beautiful wisdom and love you're sharing with us, James.
of course, it's my favorite thing to do.
It's awesome. Do you have a book or a resource that you could recommend? Just, it doesn't have to be about this topic, but just something you really love that
Yeah,
people should read.
of course. I think in regards to like the shadow self,
Mhm.
Debbie Ford would be the one to
Oh
really
yeah, I read her.
go
It's
to. She's
awesome.
like the mother of that, especially in the new age. So the Dark Side of the Light Chasers, I think it's
Yep.
such a great book. And she really just gets you to understand what your dark side is like, and that you shouldn't be
Okay.
afraid of it. And she gives you tools and exercises, and I really love that. You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. If anyone that's listening has
Classic.
not read that book, please go read it.
Yeah.
It's, yes, a little cheesy, but
Yeah. It's
it's
probably like free on the internet by
it
now.
probably it is, and it's just true.
Yeah.
If you're really into You Can Heal Your Life, then you
Yes.
might want to go back in time and read some works by Florence Scovel Shinn.
I don't know that one.
Oh yeah,
Thank you.
she wrote Your Word Is Your Wand and a couple of others. She
Okay.
also is into like science of the mind, Edgar Case, I think, and all of these people.
I love getting your
And
case.
yes, and she was, in the 30s, and she was radical back then. And they were
Yeah.
like, that lady is crazy. But now, if you
Yep.
read it, it's everything that's like trendy. And so she really is amazing as well. And then one other, I would say, other book that changed my life is Byron Katie, Loving What Is.
Oh, Byron Katie. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
She's the one that talks about the work, right?
Yes.
The work.
And yes. And I think she's great because she gives you a like ABCD formula
Okay.
to really overcome your negative thinking, your saboteur.
Yeah.
And when you use her formula, which is super simple, it works. It works.
Yeah.
It does. So I've used it many, many times.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. These are proven, and you also with clients and things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you know as well as I do, I like to call it my spiritual toolbox. You need a lot of little gems in there. You need a lot of stuff to pull from when you're not feeling well. I think people sometimes steer away from spirituality in their darkest moments, but then it's like, why is it here? That's why it's here.
Right.
When you're feeling joy and you're resonating with life, you're living in your spirituality. You're it.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about it. You're it.
Yeah. You're right.
When you're not, you need spirituality to bring you back. And so as many tools or videos or meditations that you can gather that really work for you, the better.
The better, right?
The
because
better.
Sometimes you're just not in the mood. Like I'll find myself going through these phases with certain teachers, and then I'll kind of try something else for a while. Just there's so much available, and I like to mix it up because different energy speaks to me at different times.
Yeah. It's so funny because with the affirmations, and I'm not going to curse, but it's like, oh, I love and approve myself just as I am. It's one of my favorites from Louise Hay. But then when I don't want to do it, I'm like, I freaking love myself. It's like so awful. It's like I'm trying to do it, but I'm like cursing like a sailor.
That's not effective for this moment.
Not effective. So sometimes it's not right. Sometimes that's not what you need. And that's why I think Debbie Ford is great. She's like, you don't need this, turn into a unicorn and fly to Bali kind of attitude. You need to go into the depths of yourself.
I love that. And I also feel it's important to say too, that not everybody's going to be happy all the time. I mean, I'm studying some human design now, and there's like scientific proof that people go through emotional waves. I happen to be one of them. And I thought for a really long time, something's wrong with me, but I wasn't happy all the time. So in those times, it's really good to know, you're just not going to be in the mood for something, or you're just going to be a little bit melancholy because I'm meant to feel those things. And if we're meant to feel the highs and the lows of life, then, accept it, and then find the right message or tool for when you're in those moments.
Exactly.
Because there are spiritual tools that help me when I'm in that trough, and I don't want to see them when I'm flying high.
No, you're like, you don't need it. They're good.
Yeah.
You kind of nod to them, but you're like, okay. I think a really important something that I was guilty of, let's say, a lot, and especially in the beginning of my spiritual path, like you said, the ups and downs of human emotion and how that's normal. and how you don't think it's normal. And I did not think it was normal. I thought that
Yeah.
I was this special person experiencing this supernatural thing that was happening to me called sadness or depression. And I thought that I was the only one. And I thought that maybe that meant I was this kind of special person.
Right.
And that's the ego. The ego will kind of make you think that, so you don't do the work. The ego is not going to be like,
okay. Oh, I see. Like, I'm special.
yes, you're special because everyone's special. You're human like everyone else. Everyone's going through this, you know? No, your mind wants to be like, I'm the only one who's going through this. And if you have that, that's ego. And ego is
and that's ego. And also feeling bad that you're not always happy. If you have this certain pattern, you're going to be meant to feel the lows of life. And that's because we're meant to express that. If that's where you have to be, there's nothing wrong with you. I always thought there was something wrong with me. I was like, why am I feeling this so melancholy or sad?
Yeah. And you know what helped me kind of grasp that?
Yeah.
Is we see human emotion like this. Like ups, downs, get what I want, don't get what I want. Ups, downs. But it's actually not going this way. It's going this way. It's not.
But where do you mean?
It's not like up and down.
Okay.
Right? It's this way. It's flat.
Oh.
Do you understand?
Yes.
So we see highs and lows, and when we think of ourselves as high, we get a feeling of elation that we're somewhere up here. And if we're low, we feel like we're somewhere down here. But that's not it. It's all flat. It's all just like this. It's like a river, just tracing a river. You know, it's like that. So there's no ups, there's no down. It just is. What I've learned is the downs, if you had to chart all of your lowest moments, right, and you circled them, you will realize that the downs were actually your ups. Because as soon as you dip down, you're getting ready to be thwarted straight back up.
Wow.
So the downs are the things that bring you up. And that's also very Kabbalist. And I was like, yes. Because think of it as a pinball machine, right? So when the pinball is flying around, it's fun. But when it goes back in the hole, what happens? You have to pull it. And the pinball machine, the pinball retracts. And then it goes back up, right? So that's what it is. We need the downs. If we didn't have that,
well said,
we wouldn't be here on Earth. You just wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be human. You would be a spirit guide.
An angel.
Yeah. What would you be? I don't know. You wouldn't be here. You'd be on a different dimension. You know, so if we're here, I think we all have to just say, we're going to have downs. It's just a part of being human. There's nothing, no one can escape it. Not one person. So it's comforting to think that.
It is comforting, and so it's part of the self-love formula, you know, just accepting.
We've been given free will here. We wanted it. We asked for it. It was given. And we're products of that, you know, so it's everything's a choice, really. Thank you so much. You're so welcome. I just realized how much I miss you not talking to you. I miss you too. I know. I'm really enjoying it. And I just want to thank everybody for watching, and if you've joined us here today on the Split Splash, thank you. And if you're seeing this at a later time, thank you. No, thank you. It's my pleasure. This was so wonderful. And to everyone out there listening, just remember, keep strong. We're going through a major shift right now. The planet is shifting. We're going into 5D. So right now, collectively, we're the pinball that's being pulled back. I mean, that's exactly what's happening to us collectively on Earth in this dimension. But trust me, we're going to fly soon, and you'll see you'll see. Yeah, we're going to get out of this. It's going to be some good times are coming. Just leave it at that. Thanks, James. You're welcome. That's so inspiring. Of course. Thank you. You're so welcome. All right, guys. Well, thanks all, and lots of love to you, and we'll see you soon. Yes. Bye, guys. Bye. Bye. Bye.